How to do HIIT cardio to lose stubborn fat. Getting into great shape may not be as complicated as many people think, but requires that you get a lot of the little things right, ranging from caloric intake, macronutrient balance, progressive overload, training frequency, and more. High-intensity interval training, also known as HIIT or sprint interval training, is a form of interval training. It's a cardiovascular exercise strategy alternating from short periods of intense anaerobic exercise, basically as hard as you can go, with less intensive recovery periods where you're catching your breath until you're too exhausted to continue. High-intensity interval training is not the big secret to fat loss. However, it can be a powerful weight loss tool when you know how to use it. In this video, I'll be showing you why it's a great fat loss tool, why it's superior to low-intensity steady-state cardio for optimizing body composition. But before we dive in, not many people know how to do HIIT right and don't optimally utilize this tool. Please take a second, hit the like button, subscribe, it's 100% free, and click the bell button to get a notification when I upload. How intense should your high-intensity intervals be? In the scientific literature, with regards to HIIT, there's a reference to an important term, VO2 Max, also known as the maximal oxygen uptake. It is the measurement of the maximum amount of oxygen a person can utilize during an intense exercise. Research shows that you need to reach between 80 and 100% of your VO2 max during your high-intensity intervals to reap majority of HIIT's benefits. That being said, it is difficult to approximate your VO2 max. Simply stated, when you fall between 80 and 100% of your VO2 max is when you can't bring as much air to your body as it wants. It should be close to impossible to hold a conversation while you're running at this stage. In reality, this is typically 90% of your VO2 max. HIIT 101. Your goal during HIIT is to reach 80% of VO2 max and sustain it. The overall effectiveness of your HIIT depends on the total amount you spend in the 80% of VO2 max. Let's now take a closer look at why we should choose it and why it's easier and less stressful forms of cardio. High-intensity interval training and burning fat. Research has shown that both fat and carbohydrates are burnt and the proportions vary with intensity of the exercise. It also shows as exercise intensity increases, so does the reliance upon muscle glycogen for energy over the fat stores. As the exercises get more intense, so does the proportions of energy coming from glycogen compared to fat. This is why a very low intensity activity like walking taps mainly into fat stores, whereas high intensity sprints pull much more heavily from your carbohydrate stores, your glycogen. However, multiple studies such as those conducted by Laval University, East Tennessee State University, Baylor College of Medicine, and the University of South Wales show otherwise. The research specifically shows that the results reinforce the notion that for a given level of energy expenditure, vigorous exercise favors negative energy and lipid balance to a greater extent than exercises of low intensity or moderate intensity. Long story short, if you burn 200 calories using a light intensity steady-state cardio, 100 of those calories are burning fat. If you burn 400 calories using high-intensity interval training, and only 150 calories come from fat, if your main goal is fat burning, HIIT is your tool. I've argued before that in my previous competition preps, it is more sustainable to find a balance between both tools, but I digress. To put the nail in the coffin, a study conducted by the University of Western Ontario took 10 men and 10 women who trained 3 times per week. Group 1 did 4 to 6 30-second treadmill sprints with 4 to 6 minute rests between each set. Group 2 did 30 to 60 minutes of steady-state cardio, running at 65% of their VO2 max. The high-intensity interval training group lost 1.7 kilograms of body fat, which is 12.4% of the total fat mass, whereas the ones who did the 30 to 60 minutes lost only 0.8 kilograms, which is only 5.8% of their fat mass. This study showed that there was an improved insulin sensitivity in the muscles, higher levels of fat oxidation in the muscles, significant spikes in growth hormone which aid in fat loss, and catecholamine levels, which are the chemicals your body produces to mobilize fat stores for burning, and finally, post-exercise appetite suppression. What about hitting your muscles? 1. It is well understood that concurrent training, strength and endurance, can hinder your strength and muscle gains compared to just strength training alone. This is shown by the research done by Jacob and colleagues. In the graph, concurrent training had a diminished effect on size as compared to the strength alone. Studies have also shown that the duration of the cardio sessions impairs strength and muscle growth. That being said, it's not the cardio that impairs muscle growth, but too much cardio can provide a negative effect. The old "too much of a good thing is a bad thing" saying. Two factors we're considering when we're building our own HIIT routine. 1. The duration of individual cardio sessions, and 2. The total amount of HIIT cardio during each week. For the purpose of this video, I've chosen sprinting as the form of HIIT cardio. However, rowing and biking are great alternatives. Do note that other forms of cardio are fine to utilize. The only thing you should be mindful of is not doing too much. Setting up your HIIT requires two variables. 1. Reaching at least 80% of your VO2 max. And 2. T-max, which is the duration of the high intensity interval. 50 to 60% of T-max is sufficient if your goal is losing fat and improving metabolic health. For example, I can sprint at 80% of my VO2 max for 2 minutes before my heart is about to pop. Therefore, my high intensity interval should be 30 seconds to 1 minute, and that is a challenge. For a beginner at HIIT, I would start at 30-second sprints with 60-second rest intervals. So I would sprint at 17 kilometers per hour for 30 seconds, which is my 80% of VO2 max, and then at 6 kilometers for 60 seconds and repeat. As your body adapts, when you feel you have mastered the beginner phase or it's not a challenge anymore, move on to 60-second sprints at 17 kilometers per hour and 60 seconds at rest of 6 kilometers per hour. There are 3 ways you can make HIIT harder. 1 is increase the length of the high intensity intervals. 2 is decrease the length of the rest periods. And 3 is increase the speeds at both intervals. You should also know that your rest period should be active recovery, where you keep moving and not a standstill. Studies have shown that active, not passive recovery is advantageous for reaching your VO2 max during the high intensity periods and eliciting the adaptive response to the exercise that we're after. One of the great things about HIIT is you get a lot of what you feel like is a little. There's just no more efficient way to use cardio to drive fat loss and improve conditioning. The downside is that it is taxing on the body, meaning you don't want to overdo it. Start with 5-minute low-intensity warm-ups. Do 20 to 30 minutes of HIIT, and then a 5-minute warm down, and voila. There's no need to do longer HIIT workouts unless you're focusing on improving performance and not losing fat. Per week, I would recommend at least doing between 4 to 5 sessions of HIIT per week, and that's at a maximum state. And finally, supplements. High-intensity interval training is well known to be quite taxing on the body, so having a boost from supplements and my recommended ones has helped me being able to get through competition preps. My all-time favorite for high-intensity interval training is... Now, before I jump into the supplements that have to do with the ones that I use for HIIT cardio, AHP Labs, my sponsors, are having 35% off the entire site. I'll leave a link to it in the description. And you can use the discount code MINE, which supports me, Diamonds10, to add an extra 10% on that, so you can pick up a bunch of fat loss bundles. It's their whole New Year's, so I would say stack up on supplements as I have. Now, my top 3 supplements for high intensity interval training. 1 is RP Max, which is a pre-workout. Because it's so taxing on the body, RP Max will give you the energy to get through a workout and through cardio. Also with that mental focus that you do get, and it does motivate you. This is my number 1 recommended supplement. I absolutely love it. I was taking this when I was having a difficult time through my competition prep doing high intensity interval training, just with training alone. The second one is OxyShred, which has less of the beta-alanine, but it has also helped me in terms of my fat loss, and especially with taking OxyShred. It doesn't have the jitters that you get from it, but it is a good replacement if you don't want that amount of caffeine in your body. And finally, branched chain amino acids. It contains isoleucine and leucine, which drives your body into muscle protein synthesis, especially when you're doing high intensity interval training. As we did mention in the video, that The amount of cardio can have an effect on the size of your body. It can have an effect when you're doing concurrent training. So having branched chain amino acids does allow you to retain on that hard-earned muscle mass. So these are my top 3: RP Max, OxyShred, and then branched chain amino acids as pre-workouts. The BCAAs I might take after the workout. It's not a big deal if you do it after, but these two I'll normally have as pre-workout. But these are my supplements. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, hit the video with a like. If you're new, welcome to the team, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. It's been your boy, Dr. Mike Diamonds. Peace.